d'incendie partout.
What is going on, jerk faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's a conversation you could be having during the day, but having at night. Yes, we're back for another week of Nocturnal Transmissions. Me, and of course, helping me co-pilot this thing is the homeboy Rob.
Yo.
Yes, it's been a pretty eventful week, I would dare say.
Yeah, no, it doesn't seem like anything's happened in the news, right? Right?
Yeah. What was I thinking? Of course, it was a really boring week, right? Just boring.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there are a few nuggets we will be able to find and complain about, but hopefully in a very entertaining and comical way. So in that spirit, let's get this conversation started. So, Rob, what did you do over the weekend?
Let's see. I worked for on Saturday. Got a bunch. I went grocery shopping. Got a bunch of stuff for making some healthier lunches for the week. So I did that. Sunday we went to church. Then we filmed for the main show with our really great guest. Really, I had so much fun. I don't know about you, but I had a good time with the filming.
Devin was a really cool, cool guest, really nice guy. I think we had a really good conversation.
Yeah, we did. And then yesterday,
even that, because he was like talking about games, and no offense to you, but it was a little bit more entertaining talking to him about games.
Well, okay then. You can go fuck off then, Andy. I don't care. You're just saying that because it's the guest.
Yeah. Of course, I'm kidding. Everything you say out of your mouth is interesting. Of course.
Okay, now you're just being an asshole.
Yeah.
And yesterday just did kind of laundry and tried to get some rest, but fuck, man, it felt like I just had too much to do this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I had a few days off in a row, but it just, I don't feel like I got enough rest. So today I've been kind of tired. Work was crazy. I've had a headache all day. Just kind of crazy.
Mm. Word. Yeah, as for me, nothing much to report either. Saturday. Oh, Saturday was the night of fights. There was Dillashaw versus I forget who it is, but it was pretty amazing because the other guy knocked Dillashaw out in the first 30 seconds.
Oh,
so it was a really fast round, and I think people were really looking forward to that fight. But it ended it ended really quickly, and I think the ref broke up the fight a little too quickly. Dillashaw, he was getting his head beaten in, but I think not to be criticizing the referee too much, but I think he called it a little too quickly. But there was that fight, and then there was also the Manny Pacquiao fight. And that was a pretty okay fight, but his opponent, who was half his age, got his ass handed to him. Not in any devastating way, but Yeah, he was just like a bit of a pussy, and wasn't really aggressive, and he was just kind of like taking the punches that Pacquiao was dishing out, and not being aggressive.
To be honest, I thought Pacquiao was retired. I was like, when I saw like that fight going on, I was like, really? Why?
Yeah, I think he has one more. He has one more fight. I think in his future, and then after that one, that will be his last fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, he's like 40, and so
God,
although it's
he's
funny
only
because
40.
Mayweather was in the
I thought he
crowd,
was older
and
than that.
what was that?
I thought he was older than that. I thought he was older than that.
Oh, right. But yeah, Mayweather was in the fight, and one of the correspondents, kind of interviewed him during the break, and on one of the breaks, and they asked like, oh, if whoever puts on the fights, they came to you with a number, would you fight Pacquiao again? And he didn't really give a definitive answer. But I think knowing Mayweather, if you give him a big enough number, I think he'll find a reason to fight.
Yeah. Well, when he did the thing with Conor McGregor, that was
Right,
all.
right.
They both made a crap ton of money.
Seriously, yeah, and Conor McGregor made a crap ton of money for losing.
I know, that's the crazy part.
Yeah, because I mean, he was guaranteed to make money, regardless of whether he won or lost. But he would have made a ton of money either way. Although if he won, of course, like he gets like the bragging rights and the notoriety and things like that. But yeah, I mean, if you're gonna pay me $30 million, I take a punch to the face.
Yeah, I think I could do that.
uh,
30 million, dude. If I had $30 million, I'd be set for the rest of my life. Because honestly, like my lifestyle is really not going to change that much.
right? Yeah, I mean, yeah, kind of thinking about it. Me too. Like my most extravagant purchase would be a house, or no, land. I would buy land and have like kind of like a compound. But other than that, that'd be like the most expensive like purchase I would make if I had $30 million.
I think I would. What I would do is I would probably invest money into the podcast so we could
Mm-hmm.
like get everything that we that we could dream of for the podcast. We could do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would probably, yeah, I'd probably buy a modest house. Like, I don't know if I would be in California. I might move to like, like Texas or, like somewhere like out there.
Right,
And
where
then,
where your dollar goes a lot longer than in California.
or what we do is like we just if we had like you buy a lot of land somewhere like with and then I'd have like a guest house that like for the podcast and stuff that we could do all our stuff there. You could
Mm-hmm.
live there, Andy, and then I'd be in the main house, uh, and then yeah, I think that's about it. I don't think because I don't really need that much.
Yeah, I mean, neither do I. Like, yeah, again, like I said, like the most expensive thing that I'd buy is just like some land and a house, and I'd probably then take that money and then invest it in some businesses to have like a little bit of a passive income source, so.
Yeah,
So,
I think
yeah, so like my money's making me money even while I'm sleeping.
right.
Um,
Yeah, I'd probably put that part of the money, like a third of the money in some sort of like investment thing that like nothing like too crazy, but just something where yeah, it is making like a certain percentage,
Mm-hmm.
and then another like maybe like 5 million of it would go to like the buying like a house, some land and stuff for the podcast, and then yeah, I don't know what I think, and then the other go into savings.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's like, yeah, but I would, for me, I would invest in some, what is it like? It's like some businesses, particularly like, pretty like recession-proof kind of businesses. Probably mainly like services, like maybe like some industrial cleaning companies, and then also like maybe put some into like developing some property.
Yeah,
Like those like strip malls and things like that, and just collect the rent.
yeah. So yeah, Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, come on, punch me in the face. I'll take it for 30 million.
Right? Yeah,
Like Joe Schmo.
for a punch in the face and get $30 million, I totally do that. Although it's funny because I always love the kind of the. I'm pretty sure I've asked you this before, but it's like the Brewster's Million challenge.
That's
It's like
a
if
really
someone,
tough.
what was it?
That's a really tough challenge.
Right, yeah, because because for those of you that don't know, there's a movie back in the '80s starring God, who was that?
Oh, you had John Candy and Richard Pryor.
Richard Pryor, that's right, Richard Pryor, and he was like this kind of never was a minor league baseball pitcher, and he finds out that he has this rich relative that is willing to leave him $300 million. Uh, but the only caveat was that he had to spend $30 million in 30 days. And there were certain caveats where it's like you can only give out so much in charity, and you can't have any assets.
Yeah, you had to end up with zero assets.
Yeah, you have to at the end of the 30 days you have to have $0 on you.
And he couldn't tell any of his friends or those around him what he was doing.
Right. Right. So he couldn't own anything. He couldn't have any assets. Yeah. So he could only have like the clothes that he came in wearing. And so the whole movie is about him like trying to spend basically $1 million in $1 million a day for 30 days. And he tries to do all these crazy things. He just like hires people for like no like real reason, and he's just like trying to give his money away.
But he also like he could have taken like the cheap way, which he would have gotten what, like, was it like 1 million if he right there, if he just, and he could take that out.
Right. Yeah. Like if he like decided to opt out, he would gotten like a really small portion. Like maybe I think like $5 million or something.
Right. Yeah. It was a small amount.
Yeah. It was like it wasn't like 30 million, and it wasn't 300 million. But he took the challenge, and he was basically spending like crazy, trying not to make money or anything. Like he invested in like some like really crazy stocks, and he ended up like getting money from it, or like he'd place bets on really crappy like football teams or whatever, but he then end up actually winning. And like it was funny because like he would get really upset about that. Now all of his like friends around him's like, "Why are you upset? You just made all this money." And he's like, "I know, isn't it terrible?"
It's a good movie, man. It's
a really good movie, and I think that my favorite part was because there's like this law firm or whatever who's like keeping track of like all the spending or whatever, and in true '80s fashion, the lawyers are the bad guys, and if Brewster, Richard Pryor's character, wasn't able to spend all of the $30 million, the entire estate would be bequeathed to the law firm. And so
Right.
they're like watching him like a hawk, and then one of Brewster's financial advisors was saying like, oh, you should really invest, you should put it like in collectibles or something. And that gave him an idea, and then he went down to this antique store, and they had this really rare stamp that was printed upside down, and then he buys it, and then of course the lawyers get the spending report, and they're like, oh, Brewster bought this really rare stamp, and it's worth like thousands of dollars. Like, that's an asset. We got him. And then the secretary comes in and brings the mail, and then lo and behold, a postcard from Brewster comes, and it's like, wish you were here or something. And then on the postcard is that rare stamp.
That's right. That's a guy.
And that's my favorite part of the movie. And it's just like, oh, it's not an asset anymore.
Yep.
The heck? All right. So I guess we can get into our news stories. And Robert, why don't you lead us off?
Well, okay, so I'll start off with saying two things. So for one, I remember back, I forget what year it was, but you remember the whole story with that clock kid, who, supposedly he was, he got kicked out of school because he brought he made a clock that looked like a bomb, right?
Oh yeah, Med or something.
Yeah, whatever the fuck his name was. But I remember like when I first heard that story, and this is before I had a much more analytical look at things, and I kind of I was like, oh, well, that's horrible. Why did that happen? And once you actually it was a few days later that I actually dug into the story, and saw the pictures and read some articles, like, oh, I completely I completely looked at this whole thing wrong. Like, yeah, he probably should have been kicked out of school, based off of what he did. I mean, the kid knew exactly what the hell he was doing.
Right. And what was it? Why is he showing his English teacher this thing he made for science class?
Right.
And why the hell did he bring it in one of those steel briefcase things?
Yeah. So I was like, you know what? Never again. I'm never gonna react to these stories without actually looking into it.
Mm-hmm.
And lo and behold, something similar to that happened again this past weekend. You saw all these memes and tweets and all this stuff about these kids from Covington High School, and some of them, they were white, and some of them had MAGA hats, and you just see the one kid who kind of became infamous. He kind of had this kind of smirk on his face, or what appeared to be a smirk.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this Native American guy, kind of just, what appeared to have, these kids are blocking this, elderly Native American man who, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, but then there's all this stuff, but there wasn't really any news. There wasn't actually anything talking about what actually happened. And I was like, oh, nope, not. I'm gonna wait, and I'm gonna see what. And we talked about this. It's like, what? Do you know anything of what's actually going on with this story? Because I've heard absolutely nothing. And now, sorry. but now like a lot of the what has come out from the left it was all bull flop. It was all fabricated.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's right.
it's just like the sad part is, so what we get is like this 20-second clip of something going on, but when you look at the actual full on footage, which there was 2 hours of footage apparently.
Mm-hmm.
And first off, there was this group called the Black Israelites, who was some raving lunatic cult that
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to get into them, but they were shouting some very nasty things initially, because all the kids were doing, they were just sitting on waiting, they were standing there waiting for a bus from their school trip. Didn't do anything, wasn't but they're calling them like stuff like they're calling them fags and incest, products of incest, and all sorts of just
Yeah, just like
nasty.
pretty like horrendous things. Like you're saying this to a child.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Yeah, kind of some really awful shit.
Mm-hmm.
Then all of a sudden, this guy by the name of Nathan Phillips, just comes out of nowhere, clearly not being blocked by anybody. He runs right at with his stupid drum, beating right in front of that kid's face. And honestly, that kid had a hell of a lot more restraint than I would have, because I would have punched him right in his stupid face with his goddamn drum.
Right. Um, I just quickly add, it was funny because later on we all found out this report to be highly inaccurate. And highly inaccurate, I mean total bullshit. But some outlets were saying that that this Nathan Phillips guy, he was actually trying to get in between like the Black Israelites and this group of kids, trying to be trying to be a peacemaker or something. I was like, how is one a peacemaker by drumming in the face of a 15-year-old?
Yeah,
And then also like one of like the people that was with him, like they were like arguing him and like saying like racist things. And of course, many, some of you might, some of you might say like, oh, well, these are white kids. How is it racist? Like by you qualifying them as being white kids, that's how. But anyways, like the guy that was with Nathan Phillips, he was like saying, oh, I go back to Europe. This is indigenous land. It was stolen from us. And it's just like, that's racist. If imagine if someone had said that, something to a black person like, "Oh, go back to Africa." It's the same thing.
yeah.
It's the same thing.
And the thing about, so he goes up and starts drumming in the face, and it's in the one thing is later on he was saying how people were shouting build the wall at me, and saying all these nasty stuff about me, and he was playing the victim, and it's like none of that stuff. When you actually see the whole video, no one's shouting build, not on their side, no one's shouting build the wall, no one's shouting any racist slurs.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, like the kids are very peaceful, and even when one of the other kids tries to confront Nathan Phillips, which they should have, the kid says like, no, just let them do their thing, and he just kind of took it with kind of a smile, showing it's like, hey,
Yeah, a lot of
based on his statement, just like he was saying, is like, I'm not going to engage, and I'm not here to threaten you or anything like that.
right. Yeah, he showed not only the main kid that has been that's been thrust into notoriety, but I think all the boys they show great restraint and and like and in the spirit of when like this when this like news broke Martin Luther King Day, I think it was a great testament to Dr. King's legacy of nonviolence.
Exactly.
Because you see, I mean, they show you all the time the old time black and white footage of black kids being fire hosed and being spit on and like physically being like getting like put like having hands put on them and showing great restraint. They don't throw a single punch back. They don't raise an octave higher than speaking volume. And I think, I mean, similarly, these kids showed that same, I dare say, saint-like restraint. And I think I think they should be applauded because someone like you or me, um, who wouldn't stand for that stuff, and if would likely get physical. Someone, especially if someone was being antagonistic and up in my face, yeah, I would definitely start throwing fists. But yeah, I think these kids should be commended. Of course, I mean, you're gonna go on, but that wasn't the case.
So, okay, so no, what I think is the most really disturbing fact was, so the whether through ignorance or malice or both, you have the mainstream media who just were they allowed Nathan Phillips a platform to spread lies, and he is a notorious liar.
Right. I mean, because
he's
this isn't like the first or this isn't the only incidents where he like pops up kind of proclaiming some sort of racial bigotry or some sort of slight against Native Americans.
Yeah, and so this is not his first rodeo. Then you have the media who, or you have people on media members and celebrities on Twitter saying some of the most deplorable things ever. Like you have Reza Aslan, who
of eating human brains fame.
Exactly, because saying, have you ever seen a more punchable face? And
yeah, yours.
People. Yeah, apparently he hasn't looked in the mirror.
Exactly.
Then you have all these people that are trying to like, we need to get their names out there and kind
of your Kathy Griffins, your deranged leftist celebrity types.
Yeah, calling them as like, oh, they should die. They should never have any sort of peace. Kind of as like, wow. And here's the crazy part. Like when there was evidence shown to the contrary of the statements, narrative never changed.
Nope.
They buried it.
This is true.
And it never they never wrote an apology, or they never gave an apology, never a lot of people never retracted the statements,
or they're very weak or limp-wristed kind of oh my bad kind of apologies.
But it really but really it's the bigger narrative, like it's kind of, they worked it where it's still like we're still saying the same thing, but hey, it's maybe not in this instance, but it's still around. Well, and then there was this. Then they were touting this fake. It's saying the same thing with the same school. They were like when this didn't work, when they found that their claims were false, or because the video evidence proved that. Someone posted a picture from like one of their basketball games back in 2012, where it was called and for sports fans who people who aren't sports fans, there's what they call like blackout games or whiteout games or blue out games. It's where you wear like a certain color, the whole home crowd wears a certain color or whatever. Sometimes people paint their skin. It's kind of a way to give kind of camaraderie for the fans and the
Right.
team.
It's a morale boosting exercise. So the I guess the home team, or maybe not even like the home team, like their side, like there are like uh, it's
right.
it's just a morale thing to get everyone like pumped up and like, oh yeah, that's our team. We're all united because we're all wearing we're all doing the same thing.
Yeah, and so but what they're showing is like, oh, see, look at Covington High School, they're racist. Look at that blackface. There's like, no, that is not what is being shown.
Right. Yeah. It's just like
It's just
the constant like skewing of constant skewing of facts to fit a narrative, and it's really quite disgusting. And I mean, yeah, it's not just what is it? It's not just it's not like it's not just celebrities like decrying what these kids supposedly did, but they're like asking, they're directly calling for violence. They're directly calling, like that one. I don't know. Is he some sort of musician or whatever? But he was like offering autographed copies of his album for like a video of someone punching that kid in the face. That kid in the face. And then of course, you have Kathy Griffin, who demanded that these kids like personal information, like their home address and things like that, were to be revealed, and and it's like, oh well, don't think like those guys, don't think those kids wouldn't dox you too. It's just like, are you freaking kidding me?
you had there was like, I think it was an SNL writer who was saying she would give blowjobs to anyone who like messed with these kids and stuff like that. It's like, this is disgusting behavior.
I mean, like, to put it in perspective, I don't like what the Parkland kids, like the spokes kids for Parkland, like I don't like what they say. I don't like what they say, but I would never ask. I would never like whip up a mob to go and like, yeah, let's go and like dox their give out their home address. Let's go and like punch. So I want record of someone punching such and such in the face. I would never call for that. And for the sake of argument, let's say someone on the right or someone more conservative or conservative leaning, put that out there. Now, I would still condemn that as gross. Because I mean, they're I mean, what's that punchable kid's face? David Hogg. Yeah, I mean, I think he was like the oldest of the group, whatever. But these were just kids, and I wouldn't call for the beating or the outright lynching of those kids, even though I don't agree with what they say.
Yeah, I can't. The fact that these are, I mean, they're not like little kids. They're not like 5 or 6, but they're
right.
They're still kids. They're
still kids.
13,
and
14,
they have
15 years old.
Yeah, and they have like their what was it? Patricia Heaton of Everybody Loves Raymond fame and the Middle fame. She put out a tweet, kind of defending these kids, saying like, hey, if these kids were doing like half of the things that people were saying, they would deserve all the ridicule that you have to get, but not your calls for violence, and those accusations, whether they be true or not, are going to follow those kids, every single time that they put their school's name on a resume, or or they especially that one kid, I think Nicholas Sandman is, yeah, like especially put his name on any job application, and that's going to be immediately rejected, whether or not like the hysteria of the supposed events that happen were accurate or not. The mere fact that that he is so he's like pretty much the only one right now associated with that event. Do you think he's gonna have a normal life?
No.
No, of course not. And that stain is gonna follow him. Whether it didn't. It was a bullshit story. Nothing happened. He didn't do anything to revoke him. The kids didn't surround Nathan Phillips or anything. But it's gonna follow him around. It's gonna be a stink that he'll never be able to be rid of.
Well, and because I'm not a guy that believes that in like lawsuits and whatnot, but this is one of those cases where it's like I would sue the shit out of all of those news stations because not only not only the reason that he's not gonna have a normal life, they put his goddamn life in danger.
Yeah, and that's disgusting. But there is a lawyer. And I think there's been a bunch of other lawyers and attorneys and law professionals who have offered their services to this kid or like anyone involved in that thing. And actually, there's this one lawyer from LA who's like calling out CNN. It's like, hey, CNN, what you put out is liable and you can be sued. So I think about putting like a really heartfelt retraction, putting out a really heartfelt retraction pretty soon.
Yeah, and not at like 2 a.m. At like some.
Yeah, don't bury it. You better put it like prime time, freaking Anderson Cooper shit.
Yeah, and like your most like watched show.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, and God, what was I gonna go? Yes, but just like the kind of like uncritical response to this was amazing from not just on the left because that's kind of expected, but on the right too because you had like people like Ben Shapiro or Charlie Kirk who immediately decried this and spoke out in support of the supposed victim Nathan Phillips.
Yeah, and it's one of those things too where if these kids were guilty of what was being said of them, they should be kind of ridiculed. But as far as like the violence threats and like all the really nasty stuff,
that one guy, he was like he put up a picture of like a wood chipper and it's like, oh, people who wear MAGA hats go head first into the wood chipper, and it's like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah,
like those are children, okay, and whatever, okay, and I'm not saying that they should skate, for truly reprehensible behavior, but they shouldn't, their lives shouldn't be destroyed over it. There's calls of like calling or getting in touch of schools that they're applying to for college and stuff, and like trying to get them to be denied. And it's like this one like, again, if it happened the way that the left is putting it out there as, it shouldn't destroy their lives. It shouldn't, like, before they even have a chance to live them.
Yeah, but the problem is that none of it happened.
No, exactly. But yeah, and it's gonna, and like this is gonna ruin their lives before they even have a chance to get it started.
Yeah, that's
and really that sad part. And to me, that's the most reprehensible.
And the only people who acted like adults in that whole thing were those kids.
Yeah. Those kids showed the restraint of saints.
Yeah.
Because again, if it was me right now and some guy, I was just minding my business and he came over to me and started beating a drum in my face, I put hands on him.
Yep, me too.
Oh, well, like, I don't know if I should bring this up. We kind of finished it pretty perfectly. Yeah,
What are you
which
gonna say?
is because I was just gonna like also bring up Philip DeFranco, who in a spectacular display of virtue, put out that video on his YouTube page, condemning this, saying like this, like evil's like people say evil's not dead. He's like people, but it's evil is always around us because it's taught and it's learned, to the next generation. I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
I lost a lot of respect for Philip DeFranco listening to that.
Dude, I lost, I lost respect for him a long time ago, just because slowly but surely he was starting to let down his guard, and it's like, no, he's like, I don't have to be, I have my core audience now. I don't have to ride the fence anymore, so I can kind of show my biases now. And it's funny because his whole like brand or whatever, or his whole reputation was built on being fair and balanced. Yes, he has his opinion, but then he always um, he supposedly always welcomed the opposite opinion. But I mean, slowly, yeah. But I, over the years, I started seeing like little things here and there. He would omit things from stories, or he would sensationalize, other bits, and it's just like it all started to ring hollow for me.
Yeah, definitely. I've
And so,
really feel for those
anyways,
kids.
yeah, I think tonight's gonna be a real like emotionally exhausting stream. But
Yeah, I'm already exhausted.
all right. Anyways, okay, so we're done with that story. Let's get on to the next one, which is which has to do with the March for Life.
Which should have been a huge news story. I didn't see any news coverage about it.
Right. It was there was more coverage about the Women's March.
With like the 5 people that showed up.
Yeah.
I will have to say that because obviously we you and I are very pro-life based off of our belief system, but I don't know about me going marching in the middle of fucking January in the 5-degree weather. Those guys are animals, and what was it like there was some estimates saying up to like 500,000 people or something like that. It was some
Wow.
insane.
Almost half a million pro-lifers.
Yeah,
Wow.
that was like the highest estimate of like it seemed like there was up to 500,000 people at that march.
Wow.
That's huge.
No, that's no small number. Um,
Yeah, because it was Ben Shapiro was saying because he was kind of the keynote speaker for the march, and he
that's
says,
right.
I couldn't see where the crowd ended. There was that many people.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, that's very. I mean,
so
that's very encouraging because usually you kind of hear the numbers for participants for this kind of event, and it's like within like 5 digits.
and
But
it's and
but you don't
the
expect to hear about 6 digits.
yeah, I was very impressed, and
Right.
it's I feel like this issue is starting to finally get some damn momentum
Mm-hmm.
because I think there have been I don't know if it was necessarily like coming at it the wrong way because it's not like it wasn't that it wasn't true what people were saying,
Mm-hmm.
but I think and since we do live in a society, while they claim Christianity or something, that being like their religion, there's a lot of people that don't have a belief system, so they're a lot of times don't have a lot of moral values. So for Christians or whoever, we can't quote truths from the Bible as kind of like the way to defend life. And I think we're finally having some of some of the secular arguments of why abortion is wrong.
Well, I think also it's just there's more information out there because before you can only get information from Planned Parenthood. You can only take them for their word or what they say. But now there's a lot more information out there. People are looking for that information. They're finding out what a fetus or what what a fetus actually looks like at 20 weeks or 24 weeks, depending on which state you live in. But they're finding, they're seeing that no, it's not a clump of cells. It actually looks like a baby, and it's capable of living outside the womb even at 20, 24 weeks.
Well, and we noted this when we were with talking about Knocked Up, how throughout the movie we see the development of the baby that Katherine Heigl's having, and it's like, and you and I both looked at each other, it's like, are they really showing this on the film? Like, wow, because
that's very ballsy, because they're saying here's the facts at 20 weeks. Look at this sonogram. Look at this picture. The silhouette looks very much like a baby.
Well, the crazy thing is they were doing it from I think they started week 8 or something like that, which is
right. They did the progression of when Katherine Heigl's character finds out she's pregnant, and then she starts the baby starts developing, and then she just decides to keep it, and then her and Seth Rogen's character decide to try to make it work, and then as the pregnancy progresses, they show you different stages at where the fetus is in development, and they show that all too important 20 to 24 weeks, and it's you see the sonogram or the footage of the baby, and it's moving, it's squirming, it has very distinct features. Even though it's just a sonogram, footage of a sonogram, the features are the silhouette is very distinct.
Yeah.
It's like one of those mud flaps with the sexy ladies. I mean, but it's very distinct. Because those the mud flaps with the sexy ladies on them. It looks like a woman. There are distinct features of a woman, on that silhouette, and so it's a woman. You look at the silhouette of from the sonogram, and it looks like a baby.
Yeah, so
and so I mean, I don't know if it was intentional, but that was the most dangerous part of the entire movie because they were actually telling truth.
Yeah. And it's with that extra information, I think with kind of making a more complete argument against the pro-choice movement, and then kind of really starting the lies that people like Planned Parenthood have, and understanding the history where it comes from, you start to see that it's that argument really breaks down.
Yeah, really quick. Because I mean, the old go-to was oh, well, what if you're raped, or or you're a girl's father rapes her and they have an incest baby. It's yeah, that's horrible, but for reasons why when you're filling out the forms for the abortion, and then they say reason, that's less than 1%.
Right, and it's okay, you're right. That's horrible. That shouldn't happen. Can we then say that all the other abortions are bad then? Because it's you're making it
right. Yeah, because then you're just using abortion as birth control.
Yeah.
And it's just it's just really hard. And, I'm just like so tired of talking about this because like, I mean, not like right now, but just like in general, like that sense of like, you know, we've been talking about this forever, and it's just like, when are people gonna, just realize, and they always kind of come back with, oh, it was like that video like from a few weeks back of that woman's like shout your abortion or whatever.
Oh yeah, she's really terrible.
It's just, and like one of the kind of like talking points that she brings up when she's trying to indoctrinate these kids, it's like, oh well, Republican politicians, they only care about the baby when it's in the womb, but after the baby's born, they don't want to help take care of it. It's like, yes, of course, because it's not their kid, and it's not the job of the federal government to take care of someone else's kid.
Exactly.
It's just like this. It's common sense. It's like I don't want to. If it's not my baby, I generally don't want to take care of it. Would I? On a very personal basis, if I knew the mother, would I try to help her with like maybe some childcare or like help her buy some groceries or something? Yeah, but that's me on a voluntary level.
It's charity.
It's charity and it's voluntary. It's not mandated. It's not it's not taken from me through taxes. And so it's an improper foundation. It's not equivalent of of taxpayer funded abortion and tax funded daycare and all this other stuff. Of course, yes. If you that, and that's one of the consequences of having of a baby and of having sex.
No, you don't say, Andy.
I know I know what I'm saying sounds revolutionary. It sounds revolutionary, but it's really not. And that's what, and because children is one of the consequences of having sex. And if you choose to have sex, just know that a baby could be the potential result of having sex.
You've blown my mind.
I know. I'm dropping some really radical, revolutionary ideas here.
I'm so triggered right now.
It's funny because someone pointed out, like, before the state was in charge of, quote unquote, educating kids about sex and, babies and stuff, the birth rate amongst teenagers was super low. But when the state did take over, the birth rate exploded.
Yeah. I certainly, whenever I have kids, like, I don't want them learning that shit in school.
No, I'm gonna me and my future wife will be the one to tell our children about where they came from, and to only to have sex once they are in a committed relationship, and by committed I mean you better put a damn ring on it.
Yeah. Don't be like us.
Yeah. Hey, I don't have any kids running around.
Neither do I.
All right, at least that I know of.
But we definitely have not been the most biblical in that aspect, so that's all I'm saying. But I think honestly, I'm seeing something like that, like, oh yeah, the media is, they're going to double down. They're either not going to show it or they're going to make up some false narrative. Mm-hmm. But we have not only several 100,000 people showing up to this thing. We even have currently we have not only a president that's behind it. We have and a vice president. They're behind it. They were there.
Mm-hmm.
Which is they were they've been kind of, right from the get-go, they've been kind of behind it and, trying to get Planned Parenthood defunded, all this,
Mm-hmm.
and putting this, pro-life uh, legislation forward, which is great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Everyone, was dumping on. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have something to do with babies, but everyone was kind of dumping on Mike Pence about his like attitudes and or his rule about not having a dinner alone with any woman that's not his wife. And it's like, oh, you're such a prude and da da da. And it's like, oh well, guess what happened? Me Too happened. You can guess, and who can say that they, who can definitively say that they haven't cheated on their wife? Mike Pence.
Mike, exactly.
Because
Well,
he has that kind of relationship with his wife. That he honors her by saying, I'm not going to have dinner alone with another woman.
It's not because he doesn't like women or that.
Yeah, it's not that. Yeah, again, yeah, he's freaking married and has kids, so he obviously likes women. But he loves his wife. He likes women, but he loves his wife.
He's fulfilling. He wants to make sure that there's no impropriety seen. Like it's kind of part of it. He's living out the Christian kind of the Christian life. He's living it out, like, and there'd be some Christians who wouldn't follow that code, but honestly, it's very, not only is because he's not thinking about himself, he's thinking like, how would my wife, how would that affect her? And then two, it's especially him being in a public office like that. Oh, so and so conservative Mike Pence, he's a Christian, but he's out with someone not his wife. Then they start taking pictures of that, and that blows up, and it's like, oh, what a hypocrite. And so he's not only honoring his marriage vows and the things that he believes in, but he's like, it's a God honoring thing. It's like, well, I'm not gonna defame God or my family or this, and good on him, man.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think honestly, it is a good, it's a good thing to have, like, especially like when I'm in a relationship, I try not to, go out alone with other, women. It's just like, it's not, at least not without them there. Or if it's a group thing, that's a different story. But, yeah, it's just smart.
Like that intimate time, when it's just you and another person, that it could be the most innocent thing in the entire world, but from the outside looking in, you're just gonna make all these insinuations.
Exactly.
And I mean, not to excuse it, but it's just kind of human nature. From afar, it can be interpreted as anything.
Right.
It's only those who are who are within the circle can they will they truly know. But
the with all this like the stuff that's said about Mike Pence, and like now his wife is being raked over the coals because now she went back to be a school teacher at a Christian school. Who hey, it's a Christian school, and one of the rules there is like you have to abide by Christian principles, which means not being in a homosexual relationship or being engaged in kind of sexual impropriety, all these sorts of things, and staff and students included.
Right. Yeah. I mean, when I first heard about this, it was just like oh, so so Mrs. Pence took a job at a private school where they can have whatever standards they want. and and one of those standards just so happens to be, no homosexual or transgendered student or staff members.
And I guarantee that that's not the only thing either. I bet you it's like, in, sex outside of marriage, or being in, kind of, there's probably some sort of,
Right? Yeah, because the school is based on based on religious principles. Um, I'm sure there's going to be a whole host of other things like no drinking beer, like no drinking alcohol, or
I guarantee that's part of it.
yeah. And so, I mean, it'd be one thing if Mrs. Pence, you know, took a job at a public school, and then she mandated no homosexual or trans students or staffers, no no alcohol or cigarettes or tobacco or drug usage will be setting those uh, standards or guidelines for a public school. I could understand the outrage, but this she took a position at a private Christian school, private and Christian, so it's not open to everybody, and they're going to go by a certain set of principles. I don't see what the huge outrage is.
I'll tell you what the outrage is, because the left hates Christians, and all these stories kind of connect to what we're talking about. I the with the March for Life, uh, they're not going to cover it because, oh well, they're a bunch of crazy nut jobs who are, you know love the Bible and all this other stuff. So we're not going to cover that. It's not important. Then you have the Catholic high school students. Oh well,
Mm.
they're white and they're racist, and God forbid they, a couple of them had MAGA hats on. And then they demonize them, saying that, oh, look how terrible they are, how they treated this Native American and all this other stuff, or how these students at the school, like how they were, dressed in blackface, when that's not the case at all. And then you have, like, yeah, they're, making fun of Mike Pence and saying how sexist he is for not wanting to have dinner with anyone but his wife, or saying how terrible his wife is for going to a school that doesn't believe in, um, has a policy to, follow a biblical mandate of, living a pure life. Give me a freaking break. And it's it's not to the point where Christianity is outlawed yet, but we're getting to the point where, um, you know nothing's new under the sun. There's gonna come a time where, you know we're gonna have a Nero like character, that's calling the shots, and uh, they are gonna, blame all these horrible things on Christians, and then, yeah, it's gonna be a free for all, on us. I mean, it already kind of is. Like, we get made fun of, or blocked from a lot of things, and me, God, me as a white guy, I'm the most evil. I'm the most evil man in America. I'm a conservative white guy who is a Christian. Yeah, I mean, it's
Right.
a three for.
Yeah, you have the trifecta. But an interesting point was brought to my attention recently, and if you are bigoted or prejudicial to Jews, it's called anti-Semitic. If you are prejudiced or bigoted towards Muslims, then you're Islamophobic. But what is the term for someone who is bigoted or prejudicial to Christians?
Good question. Normal.
That is the question. Why is it that there are terms for every other major Abrahamic religion? Some word that you can use to categorize someone as being anti-Semitic or Islamophobic, but what is the term for someone who is bigoted or prejudicial against Christians?
I can't think of one. I haven't heard one.
Yeah, and that's and I mean that's kind of the point. It's this perceived that you can't. It's like the same thing as that you can't be racist if you're black, or you can or you can't be racist towards white people. It's the same idea. Of course you can be.
Yeah.
Of course you can be racist towards white people. It happens all the time. It's happening right now. Just
Yeah.
As an example, there was that incident I think last week with David Webb of Fox Radio and some Ariva Martin from CNN. She's like some sort of analyst for them, and they were having an interview, and David Webb was talking about how he started off his career as a disc jockey, and he climbed, he he climbed up the ladder, as it were, and Ariva Martin accused him of that he was only able to do that because of his white privilege, and the joke here, the punchline is that David Webb is a black man. David Webb is a black man, but and then it was funny because he kind of let her go on for a little bit, and it's like, oh yeah, you as a white man can never understand the plight of black people because of your white privilege, and then so he kind of just let her kind of hang herself, for a little bit, and then he comes in and like, hey, I don't know who does your research or if you did, or if you yourself didn't do any research, but hey, just so you know, I'm black. And then quickly she's like, well, yeah, and then and it was hilarious because he's like, okay, so, and then she kind of switches her tone and it's more like, well, then yeah, of course, if you work hard enough, you can achieve anything despite your skin color or whatever. It's like, whoa. You were about to dismiss you were dismissing all of my arguments when you thought I was a white man. But now that I'm a black person, my arguments hold water.
Doesn't make sense. It either holds water or it doesn't.
Exactly. Or it holds up regardless of your skin color, or it doesn't.
Right. Yeah, I remember hearing that interview. It was like, this is insane. I mean, I'm laughing and crying at the same time. I don't know. It's just it's funny because watching her just hang herself was pure.
Listening to her flap in the wind after it was revealed that David Webb was a black man. Just oh well. It's classic.
Because she did zero research. I mean,
of course. Yeah, and then she kind of try to obfuscate. It's oh well, my team, they gave me the wrong information. It's well, your team are a bunch of idiots and they should be fired.
Yeah, well, it's that's on. I was saying we have we have a group chat that you kind of talk to each other quite a bit in, and it's I was saying the left is lazy. They're lazy, and then when they when it blows up in their face, they bury the evidence.
Or they blame somebody else. Just this Ariva. Yeah, she blamed her team. Oh well, someone on my team gave me the wrong information. And again, your fucking team are idiots, and they should be fired.
You shouldn't in the end yeah, they did the stuff. It's you can also do double check and
right, quick sure, Google search, because we all have Google is so ubiquitous that it's just you could use a computer or you can use your phone.
Yeah,
it's just that handy. You could, and like right before the interview, it's like, oh, let me just double check my information. Oh, David Webb, black man, whoa, you know. It's like, well, this it's like, well, I can't use white privilege as an argument, That's simple.
I mean, like she went to that like right away.
No, of course, because she was losing the argument.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like they're lazy. Their arguments and policies don't hold up. So because they're intellectual cowards, they just like, oh well, I'm losing, so racist or sexist or whatever ist that's out or phobia that's out there. It's like that's what you are.
Exactly. It's so frustrating, because it's like it's the same thing over and over again, and like despite you presenting an argument or really solid ironclad logic, it's just they refuse to live in reality.
Well, so like if we look at someone like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, it's also I'll give her one sense of praise. She's a very shrewd politician. She
No,
knows
yeah,
how to.
I mean she plays dumb, but she knows
I think
she knows how to manipulate. That's what it is.
She's a shrewd politician who knows how to manipulate, but also knows jack shit.
No, exactly. Yeah, like that MLK celebration thing where where admittedly I forget something quotes. He was actually like asking.
One of the most debased writers that everyone praises. I think his writing is awful.
Oh, I forget what he wrote. What's he written?
So I mean, all his writing's pretty much the same, but like his whole shtick is that we need to pay reparations to
yeah, that guy. But
like how
but I mean, he was like sort of asked. What was that?
Well, now how we live in like such a horrible racist country.
Yeah, I mean, well, then why are you here, dog? Why are you here? If it's so bad, if it, if black folk be being strung up on every street corner, then why are you here? Unless that's not happening.
Yeah, it's was it Matt Walsh brought up an interesting point that I had probably thought of at some point, but had kind of forgotten. But where he was saying that uh, you have like all these people on the left saying like how this country was built on through like slavery and cheap labor and blood, and everything was stolen. It was built on the backs of on slavery and all this stuff. And okay, let's say that's true, or at least you think that that's true. Why are you still living here then? If you hate these things and you have this sense have this sense of moral virtue, shouldn't you be leaving because you don't believe in?
Yeah. What? Oh yeah, I read that. I read his tweet. Yeah. Then why are you living here, still benefiting off the blood of slaves? Why are you enjoying all of the benefits of the work of slaves? I mean, well, not air quote slaves, but slaves. Then why don't you live somewhere else? And it's a fair question. If you are so distraught by the notion that this country was built on the backs of slaves, why are you still here? Why are you still living off the benefit of that labor?
Yeah, it's like that's where you look at it. It's like, well, yeah, if you claim what you say and like how terrible it is, and that you think that it's and your moral virtues tell you that it's wrong, you shouldn't live here. You should be trying to get away to move somewhere else.
Precisely.
But it's never gonna happen.
Precisely.
because they.
And I mean, and since he's such a proponent of reparations, why doesn't he include the Irish? They were brought here as slaves. They were actually looked more down on than black slaves.
Yep.
No
one talks about that.
Yeah, no one talks about that. Where are the reparations for the Irish descendants?
Where they I mean, essentially killed them. It's like they stole Irish children and then killed them.
True.
That's
Yeah.
pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, what was it? Darwin called them like subhuman or or lower than even apes.
Yeah.
And that was another
funny.
white guy. That was a white guy saying another group of white people were lower than primates.
It's fucked up.
Yeah. So why aren't they were slaves too. They were in chains on boats too. And you could try and make the equivocation as like, oh well, they came in as indentured servants. It's like, well, what's the difference?
Here's the thing. It's like, see, because the slaves were seen as like, more as like property, so they were taken care of. Whereas, like with indentured servitude, it's like, oh, we're only going to have them for a short time, so we're going to beat the fuck out of these people. That's what it is. That's exactly what it was. And we kind of have, this. We kind of buy into the roots narrative of that. That's kind of how everything went. And there's some truth to that story, but
right.
it's kind of it doesn't tell.
It's skewed and it's very narrow. It's skewed and it's narrow.
Yeah. Now
because no one's saying that there weren't black slaves, and no one's saying that they weren't treated horribly, but there are also white slaves in this country too.
Yeah, and we're not saying whoa pro slavery. No one's saying that on this channel.
Although I think I might want if slavery was to be brought back, then I think I'd be more in the Owen Benjamin philosophy. Is like, I want everyone to be my slave. Black, white, brown, red, doesn't matter. I'd even enslave other yellow people. You know why? Because I believe in equality.
True.
So you are all equal to be my slaves.
Well, I mean, that's essentially, if we go down the socialism route, that's kind of what that is.
This is true.
Oh boy, what a crazy week, Andy. I'm exhausted already, and it's only Tuesday.
I know, it's only Tuesday. We are just barely out of the weekend, and all of this crap went down. Oh, jeez.
I'm emotionally exhausted. I need a drink.
Yeah. But at least we're coming out of it happy. At least we didn't what is it? At least we didn't black pill ourselves and say, oh, everything sucks and nothing's ever. We're at least able to laugh. And it's funny. It's funny because that's I think that's why they hate that Sandman kid.
Because he took it in good and.
Yeah, because that's why. Because they hate the smiles. Because they can't control the smiles. It's it's again kind of what not kind of like, but it's what Owen Benjamin says. Like they hate laughter because the authoritarians hate laughter. It's because they can't control it.
Yeah.
And then in the similar vein, they hate smiles because they can't control that either. And it's a sign that they're not anyone who's smiling, naturally and kind of like how this kid was, is not being controlled. That he is not doesn't have like that slave mentality.
Yeah, honestly, like going back to Sandman, it's like not only did he like smile like in kind of being was not aggressive at all, but man, I was really blown away by his message and how honestly like how kind he really was to people that did not deserve his kindness at all.
Right, yeah, and this is like kind of in his like kind of, in his statement, like giving his take of everything, it was, it sounded like, given all the video footage, that's exactly how it went down. Like the way he like saw it and perceived it, that's exactly what it was. It's like he was just with his friends there waiting for the bus, you know. They out of nowhere, this group of Indians started coming and drumming their face. They had like the black Israelites going there, yelling at them and saying that, again, like they were a product of incest. And it was funny because there was actually a black student there, and then like they were calling him nigger and like, those white boys, they're gonna steal your organs and stuff. And they were all taking it in stride.
Yeah. And it's just like, because honestly, I would have told all those people to go fuck themselves.
Right? I mean, yeah. So
I would not have said anything nice about them, like that kid did. He said a lot, and he was very kind to them.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I will definitely be praying for him, his family, and that school because, they haven't even been able to go to school the last couple of days because of there's been bomb threats at the school.
Right. Yeah.
And
but
that's unfortunate.
yes, but I mean, if anything, what the lesson we could take away from what happened to Nicholas Sandman and his fellow classmates is smile in the face of evil, because your smile is the thing that evil can't stand to see, because it knows that it doesn't control you. So just smile.
He embodied the Christian message.
Yeah. So everybody just smile. I think
I think that's a good way to end it.
Yeah, it is. All right, folks, that will do it for us tonight. I know we. Were you gonna say something, Robert?
No, I was saying it's like I feel better ending it that way. Like I have some hope.
Yeah, smile, smile, because that's the only thing that they can't control, and it's the thing that they hate the most because they can't control it. All right, well, thank you for joining us for this Tuesday's Nocturnal Transmissions. I know we started late. Remember, it's always Robert's fault.
The post offices.
Stop equivocating. Anyways, don't forget to catch us every Tuesday at 8 p.m. ish for Nocturnal Transmissions every week. We'll try our best to start as close to 8 o'clock as possible. Don't forget to don't forget to check out the library of other shows. Don't forget, like the Circle of Jerks main podcast and Robert's show, Up by Up Down. There are also excerpts from each of those shows, just conveniently categorized for you down at the bottom. Don't forget to follow us on our various social media accounts: Twitter at PodcastCOJ and Instagram at Circle of Jerks Podcast. Well, for Robert and myself, we say thank you, and we'll see you next week.